there, Natalie?
I am here, Stephen. Hopefully that's working as it should be. I am with you guys.
Fabulous. Lovely to see you.
Yes, great to see you. And thank you so much for having me to talk about one of my favorite subjects, Instagram. So I'll be in my absolute element this morning.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm sure everybody on this webinar is going to have a fantastic experience. Your knowledge on Instagram is phenomenal. I mean, we've had you for loads of events before and it's always gone down really, really well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Fab. Me too. Can't wait to get started.
Great. Okay. Well, have a good one. Thanks, everybody.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you to all of our fantastic hosts, because the work that these guys do is absolutely phenomenal and the quality of support that they offer is unreal. So as they put the links into the chat, I cannot recommend thoroughly enough that you check out all the fantastic support available for your business. I'm with you this morning to talk about Instagram. You do have the option to ask questions throughout, as mentioned in the Q&A screen, and Andreas will be joining me at key moments just to catch up on all of your fantastic questions. My advice is, as you've tuned in live, be really selfish. The things that you want to know that are going to make absolute difference to adding value to your business on Instagram, make sure that you get them asked and get that answer, so that you're actually able to leave today's session with not only all of the general skills and tips and advice that we've run through, but also things that are really personal to you that are going to immediately add value. So without further ado, let's get started. So good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. I am Natalie Eminae, and I will be here to talk to you about Instagram this morning. I'm going to switch across and we're going to screen share and look through some slides. I know there's a lot to go through, but we'll give a little overview, and please, please, please do be as interactive as possible to make sure that you get the most that you can from this session. So let me just switch across and get this slideshow started. So Instagram is one of the most evolving networks that we see within a social media toolkit, and it's really, really effective in terms of engaging its user base. To give you a little bit of a backstory, Instagram originally launched as an app for Apple only. So it was originally exclusive to iPhones and based entirely on the idea of sharing photos. It was a little bit like a Twitter, but purely visual when it launched. However, we have seen a huge evolution in Instagram's journey from concept and launch to where that is today. And for many businesses, it is something that is not only a social network that adds huge value to their presence, but also helps them future-proof their marketing strategy by understanding it as one of the fastest growing networks and actually seeing and investing in the value of starting to prep work on it now that may pay off massively slightly further down the line, as well as harnessing some quick wins today. It's highly visual, and we'll be covering how Instagram works in terms of usage trends. So actually, how do people use it as a platform and what that means for your business? How Instagram works in terms of what is a post and what is a story. Instagram tools and best practices, so things that you can be doing to get your Instagram presence working for your business. And particularly in this area, we'll be looking at B2B and B2C. So actually, even if you have a not particularly visual business, and I get you, I don't run a particularly visual business, it's how we can actually make that work and translate and still allow you to harness all of these valuable opportunities that Instagram offers, but without having to absolutely stress over not necessarily having a great deal of kind of image resources at your fingertips. We'll be looking at how to create quality content. So what do people actually want to see? How to measure those results, because measuring is vital. If we're not measuring, first of all, we don't know exactly what we're getting. It means that we have a social media platform that we then turn on or off. We don't really fully understand. So it's about how we work that out. And then rounding off with some tips, tricks, and tactics so that you can leave this session and hopefully be posting on Insta by this afternoon if you are not already. So in terms of that, I'm just going to launch a little poll for you guys. Bear with me 2 moments as I just try and adjust this. Oh, I'm not sure it's going to let me poll while I'm screen sharing. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. We'll just click launch poll. So I would love to know, as a starting point, whether your business is currently using Instagram. And we've put together 3 options. So we're looking for the Insta lovers, so people that are using Instagram very, very effectively at the moment and are really looking to take their presence to the next step. We're looking for people that are using it. So you might have got started, you might have posted a few times, but you're not really sure as to what you're getting from it. And then we have the kind of third option, which is you're not quite started yet, but you're very keen to get started. So let me know. I feel a bit like I'm on sort of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it's the Ask the Audience as the bars go up and down. So I'll just play that tune in my head for a moment as you guys vote. So let's have a little look at how that's shaping up. We have 25% of the vote. So we've got 9 people in the room that love Instagram. Awesome. It's great to hear that you're already started. Hopefully some of the hints and tricks that we're going to go through slightly later in the session will be huge value adds for you guys in terms of taking that presence to the next level. Yes, but I'm not sure about it. It's the largest chunk in the room. So we've got 16 people, 44 people who have opted for that. So yes, but we're not sure about it. So with that in mind, we'll be looking at anything that you might need to know to get started and making sure we're covering that in lots of detail. And no, I haven't, but I'm really keen to get started, is our next biggest segment with 31% of the vote. So it sounds like we have got a very enthusiastic Insta room, and it's all going to be about making sure that you guys are getting the absolute most from the platform today. So we'll crack on with that in mind. So with Instagram as a presence, it should sit within your digital arsenal of social media tools. And what I mean by that is, as a business, it is an absolute myth that you need to be present and active on all social platforms. Where you need to be depends on where your audience is. So if you have a highly visual product that will lend itself nicely to Instagram or a visual platform, or you have something that appeals predominantly to the Instagram usage generation, which very generally speaking is those age under 35, but we're going to delve into that in just a moment to get a bit more of a statistic around that, then Instagram is very, very much worthy of your consideration. If it is something that you think your audiences might not be active on yet, but may be active in the future, it is definitely one of the fastest growing platforms that we see. So even if you're not going to leave the session today and get started, it might be something that's worth bearing in mind at your next marketing review, whether that's a month or 3 months time for today. So in terms of how we need to look at Instagram within your digital set is in relation to your social media sales funnel. Everyone in sales loves a sales funnel, and we are no different really at Ococo. We love a sales funnel in terms of actually understanding where social media should sit in relation to your target customers' purchase cycles. So I want you all to spend just a little moment for me thinking about your own customers' individual purchase cycles. And what that essentially means is how much time passes between your customer purchasing your product to coming back and purchasing the product again. So for example, if you sell coffee and you are a coffee vendor, the time between customers buying a cup of coffee from you and then coming back. Now, because your customer in this instance has a consumable good, this might actually be a very, very short time scale, because they might get a cup of coffee on a morning and then go and drink that at work. And then the next morning, they would want another cup of coffee. So it's essentially that purchase cycle, which would be 1 day. So basically between purchases to get into the market, make a purchase, get back out of the market, come around and make another purchase, your customers are looking at a purchase cycle of 1 day. If you sell cars, for example, your purchase cycle is longer. So your customers might come in and sign a deal on a 3-year finance agreement, and they will buy a car, and then it will be 3 years before they're in that purchase cycle again. So your customer purchase cycle in that instance is 3 years. Now have a little think in your own head right now about how frequently your customers will purchase from you. What does the typical purchase cycle look like? If you're an outgoing supplier, so for example, we work on an outsourced basis with customers, but our customers are on 30-day contracts. So if you contract, try and factor that in as the point at which they would basically renew that contract, or at least not opt out of it. So have a little think about your purchase cycle. Once you start to understand about how long that purchase cycle is, so how long it takes makes your customers to purchase, to come back, it starts to make it a little bit easier to see where your social media funnel should be functioning. And it's all about keeping your customers at the awareness and interaction stage, so they are consistently aware of your product and service offering and consistently able to interact with you. So you've almost got your customers in the first two stages of that sales funnel. By connecting with you on a social media platform, they're basically there in a constant on-off dialogue where you're able to post and actually make sure that your customers are receiving messages but able to interact back if you like. Think about how long that purchase cycle is as to how long you need to hold your customers at that top level of cycle. If you have a short purchase cycle, you will be able to get away with a higher level of sales content because your customers are active in the market more frequently. If you have a longer purchase cycle, you will need to think about putting out on your social media channels a slightly less sales mix to keep your audiences engaged and interested in you between those purchases. So with that in mind, it's all about Instagram as a tool to reach your target audience, to make them aware of your product or service, able to continue to interact with you. But once they reach that interest stage, so they know that they need your product or service at that time, they're able to literally complete the purchase, take action, buy from you, but then go straight back to the top of the sales funnel where within your social media, there's enough content to keep them entertained. In terms of what they want to be looking at and what adds value to their digital journey between those key purchase cycles. So let's look at Insta in terms of numbers and take a step back to it as a general platform just for the moment. Instagram features 1 billion monthly users. And what that means is every month, at least 1 billion people will log into Instagram. But if we see beyond that, 500 million people use Instagram stories every day. So while Instagram has this huge user base, actually half of them are active on a daily level in terms of accessing the platform and making it work, engaging with it in some way for them. If we look at the gender mix, and this is really important when it comes to Insta, if we were to compare it to other platforms, the gender mix on Instagram is pretty even. We see 50% females, so a very slight female split, and these are global data, and 48% male. So 52% female, 48% male. If we were to look at something like Pinterest, it's a much larger female audience. If we look at something like LinkedIn, much larger male audience. So in terms of us understanding the importance of Instagram for our business, we know that actually we can reach a fairly even gender split on the platform itself. Now that again will help with determining content to put out, and 63% of Instagram users log in at least once per day. So we see this very, very active core Instagram user base, which is great for marketing potential. What it means is our audience are very, very active on Instagram. So that means because they log in regularly, we are afforded a fantastic opportunity to actually take them between those purchase cycles on a really, really meaningful journey with us, whether they are there for a day before they come back and purchase again, or whether they are with us for months, if not years, between those purchases. Instagram users will spend an average of 28 minutes per day on the platform in 2020. And we see 200 million Instagram users visit at least one business profile per day. So the activity is high. We see a high level of usage, but actually what you will also note from that second statistic, 200 million Instagram users visit at least one business per day, the competition is tough. There are a lot of businesses on Instagram. And in order to survive and thrive and make sure you're growing your digital presence in a meaningful way on the platform, we need to make sure that we are creating the right type of content that hits with the right audience to get it working for your business. The opportunity is huge, but really, like everything in life, nothing on Instagram will come easy. It's about putting in the effort to make sure that we are getting the platform working exactly for your brand. 1/3 of the most viewed stories on Instagram come from businesses, and brands post an average of 2.5 stories a week. So what you might have noticed as we've run through those statistics there is that stories are really emerging as an Instagram option. And just to give you a little bit of context, and we'll be discussing over the next couple of slides, there's a difference in terms of functionality of posting on Instagram and how you can actually post on the platform. And what we want to do is create a really cohesive strategy between what Instagram offers businesses, which is a highly disposable level of messaging within the realm of Instagram stories, and a long-term narrative within the realm of Instagram posts. So if you are new to the platform and those phrases are perhaps things that you are maybe hearing for the first time, or you're not super familiar with it, let's just have a little look at those Instagram tools once again, in terms of making sure that you've got your stories and your posts. So stories work on Instagram in the form of 24-hour disposable messages. Stories are designed to basically narrate exactly what your business has got going on right now, but in a way that produces content that you might not necessarily want to keep. Now, this is great in terms of if you wanted to add extra hype around a product launch, a service launch, a case study. If we were talking pre-lockdown, and I think it's very important to address that social platforms have changed slightly given the sort of unprecedented times that we currently live in. But pre-lockdown, if you were at an event and you wanted to go very, very heavy on the event coverage, you could do that through your Instagram stories in a way that means that content would be shared with your audience, but it wouldn't be something that your business would have to commit to forever. You do have the option of stories. Now, aside from stories, we have got the option of posts. Now, Instagram posts look a little bit more like this. These are the images and the content that you will see if you were to visit an Instagram profile and actually look through the content on there. So your posts are permanent, your stories are temporary. And just to kind of give you a little bit of an indicator on that, a lot of businesses will see success from posting multiple stories a week and multiple posts a week. So we're looking at a fairly even balance between content that is designed to be permanent and content that is designed to be disposable. Hopefully that will give you a little bit of context. Now I have just run slightly ahead with my slides there, so we're just going to do a very quick rewind to get back to the tools stage. But I didn't want to kind of jump in at this point in case there is anyone in the room who was new to Insta and not quite up on their stories versus posts yet. So in terms of your Instagram toolkit, we have got the facility to post in either a disposable way or a permanent way. But as businesses, we have one very valuable Instagram asset that a lot of organizations actually don't factor in. And that is the opportunity to register your organization as a business with Instagram. Now, the next couple of kind of screen grabs on here, I'll just run you through. But as first essential step for your Instagram is to get that presence sorted out and make sure you've got all of the information that you need on there. So the example that we have on the left of the screen is the screenshot of your edit profile option. So if you go on Instagram, or if you are just registering for the first time, within your settings, these are all the features that you have access to. And you will notice, perhaps if you use other platforms like LinkedIn or like Facebook for your business, there's actually not a great deal that you can do on Insta in terms of your business functionality. So it will ask you to add a profile picture. It will ask you to add your name and confirm a username. So for a profile picture, we would recommend a business logo to help make your brand easily identifiable. The name should be your business name and the username should be a username. If you can match it to your other networks, brilliant. But if not, as long as it's a username that represents your business, that's perfect. You can add in a link to your website. Now, this is the only place on Instagram without paying for advertising that you can include a link to your website. So if, for example, you were to post onto Instagram and you had a post option, and you can add your text, the link that you include, if you were to include a link, won't actually be clickable for an audience member. So this is why if you use Instagram, you will see quite frequently the link in bio reference. So if you're talking about a product or service, you can reference that as link in bio to give a call to action rather than click here. It will be click to visit our profile and then click the link in the bio. Now your bio should give a little overview of what your business is and what you do. And then within that, you are able to essentially set up your Instagram business tools. So not all accounts on Instagram are created equal. When you first set up an Instagram account, Instagram will assume that you are a private individual. It will not assume that you are a business. And if you are able to kind of double check your settings if you're already set up, what you want to do if you haven't already, or if you are just getting started, is to make sure that you've switched on those Instagram business tools. They're going to give you some additional features, set you apart, and also make sure that you have got the information that you need to help make good decisions about your Instagram presence going forward. So I can see we've got a couple of questions. So I'm just going to have a very quick look into the tab here. And Andreas, I don't know if you want to join me and just give me a little recap of anything additional I can be adding in at this stage. I know we're quite early in the session, but there is a lot of detail to go through. I don't want to be missing anything for anyone.
To be honest, I'm using Instagram on my personal account, but when it comes to businesses, I'm sure that you know more than I do, to be honest. But I can help you. I can help you out with the questions if you want me to.
That would be great.
We've got a question from Miriam. She says, could you please show an example of linking to website, please? If you can't do it now, will there be, a time where you will be showing the links on, like, I think she meant the Instagram bio, where you can put the links in your Instagram bio link.
Yeah.
Miriam, is that the case? I'm not really sure if that's what you meant, to be honest. But yeah, Miriam, if you can just specify if that's what it is that you wanted. Yes, she says that's what she asked, a link in the Instagram bio. So Natalie, if you don't want to go to that question now, we can leave it for a while. And we've got another question, if that's okay with you, which is more, more interesting, if I may put it this way. It's a very direct question. So we've got a question from Dominique, and he says, we have recently set up a lottery at St. Cuthbert's Hospice, which means that we don't have customers repurchasing. Direct debit payments for lottery membership is ongoing once signed up. Do you have any Instagram tips for this type of customer base relating to retention and possibly new potential customers?
Yeah, oh, well, that's a great question. Just to give you a recap on kind of both of those questions, for the link in the bio, the screen that we're currently looking at does have the kind of website link within it, but certainly at the end of the session, we can have a little look at a live Instagram as to where that looks and how that feels like. Yeah. So it would be as simple as, and I think perhaps it's the point where Instagram, actually the functionality is not that exciting, so it is really as simple as it seems in terms of you would literally just pop that in there. In relation to your lottery purchase cycle, and I am really glad that we've had the opportunity to discuss it before we kind of move a little bit away from the purchase cycle, so this is fab. It might be a case of we might need to look at putting some more urgent calls to action in there just to speed the perception of that purchase cycle up. So if your lottery draw is once a week, do we have enough content going out that actually celebrates the fact that it's just happened? And do we have a countdown, almost as you would imagine with the national lottery, where it is that advert, it says the Euro Millions is X amount, and you go, oh my goodness, that's so much money, I must get a ticket now. So actually, whether we speed people up a little bit with that content, I would probably look Could we actually put some timeline markers in there? So within your social media posts, have you got enough of what we would refer to as clocks? So your clock can be any type of metric that counts down to something. So if you were basically filling a digital webinar, your clock could be a countdown till the places are filled. So there's 3 places remaining, there's 1 place remaining. But in this instance, it is literally going to be a sort of calendar countdown till the end of the lottery, or the draw that goes into next week's draw and next month's draw. And just actually make sure, are we putting enough clocks in that content just to hurry people through that purchase cycle and keep them on track so they don't forget about it, would be my top tips for that.
All right. Good answer. Right. It seems that we've got quite a few more questions. Right. Okay. We've got a question from Natalie. I've seen her texting in the chat box saying that we need to pronounce her name in French, but I'm not really good with French anyway. So excuse me, Natalie, if that's not the way I pronounce your name. She says, stories sound like a lot of work for something to disappear. Does Insta promote them more in their algorithms?
Oh, well, yes, absolutely. So in terms of stories, it's another way to be discovered. Now, you can save your stories, but the benefits of saving stories is actually kind of minimal. So you can save them and they'll still live on your profile, but they won't actually be that easily discoverable anywhere. So if you do make a beautiful story, for example, a how to order or how to work from a story, you can save it. My advice with stories, and we'll come to some examples, is absolutely around that. We've got to measure how much effort we're putting into them to make sure that you're getting the right level of results. Because if the story is only visible for 24 hours, if it takes you 10 minutes to create a story, perfect. If it takes you 2 hours, it's not a good use of your time. So speeding up stories, and actually making sure that if you are creating story content for Instagram, can we repurpose that elsewhere, is a great way of getting additional value. But yes, absolutely, it's a good question, and I'm so glad that you're actually bearing it in mind at this stage, because we do speak to a lot of businesses that are like, it took me 3 weeks to do my stories and then nothing came of it, and you're like, yeah, but can we repurpose that content as posts? Can we get more from it?
Right, okay. Thank you for that. We've got 3 more questions at the moment. Another one from Carol. Does the name have to be your business name, or can you use that space in the bio as more of a description?
Oh, it's a good question, Carol. So your business name, you basically got your 2 elements. So you've got your name and your username. Now, your username is what people will predominantly find you on, but your name will also contribute to that as well. So you ideally want them to be quite close to your actual business name to get that brand recognition. For more of a description about what you do, pop that in your bio. That's going to be the best possible place for that.
All right, okay, thank you. Another one from Laura. She says, I can't find Insta to use on laptop. Can you help?
Oh, well, Instagram, as we have covered, is app-based. So it is very, very much, it will favor the app. Now, if you use a bit of scheduling software like Sprout Social or Hootsuite, you can manage your Insta through that a little bit. You can also link your Instagram to a Facebook, as Instagram is a Facebook product, and manage it through there. Or alternatively, stick to the app. You can log on to Instagram.com and log in, but you can't post on the website. There's some hacky workarounds, but they're a little bit sort of getting into the coding of the page and not really how we'd recommend. If you are playing against the rules of a social platform, you've kind of already lost. They're very much designed for us to play with them nicely, not trying and hack them and use them to our own gain. So unfortunately, it's going to be app based, but you can use it on Android or iPhone. So my advice would be, as we're going along, just pick up your phone and have a sneaky little download and have a little look at how it might work on there for you.
Right, okay, wonderful. Another one from Laura. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm so new to Instagram, I'm not understanding. I think I need to go to a basics course.
Oh, don't worry, Laura, there's so much when it comes to Insta. There is so much. So if you're happy to kind of stick with us, I'm sure you will get it. Don't get me wrong, it will be a baptism of fire as we go through this, but there will be some tangible bits that you can pick up. So don't worry about that at all. Thank you.
Right. And we've got the last one for now from Miriam. Could you please show an example? Oh yeah, that's the one that I've asked before, of the link, how it actually looks like live. So we'll get back to this, Miriam, in the webinar, I think. But yeah, we're all good for now, Natalie.
That's awesome.
I think I'm good to say that we will be having a break at around 11 o'clock, just so everyone knows that they can, prepare themselves for the 5-minute break or so. But yeah, we're good to continue, Natalie.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that asked the question. I'm really keen for you guys to get everything that you can from today. So please, any questions, pop them in the box and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So in terms of Instagram, what we're really looking to do is create a strong strategy that helps you stand out on the platform. And stories, as we have touched upon, are highly disposable, but they do get a fantastic bit of additional Instagram reach and they operate in a slightly different way. So when as an end user you log into Instagram, your stories don't appear in your main feed. They appear at the very top along a little horizontal bar. So Instagram will use basically an algorithm that will display its images in an image order vertically, but across the top are your stories, and you're able to actually identify stories without starting to scroll on Instagram. Now, these stories will be displayed in an algorithm order. And what happens is the individuals and the businesses that a user has followed and watches stories most from will appear to the left. So those are the first stories that they see. Basically, Instagram baits you into watching stories and starting stories. Now, for me, these are always Instagram videos that my sister-in-law has published of my niece and nephew, because I can't resist their little faces. So that is the content that I click on most. Now, what happens from there is I will basically click to view a story, and then those stories will play in order. So basically, I will be on my story journey. Stories will take the full screen. And how that looks basically is a little bit like these. So these examples from Airbnb as to how a story might look or feel. It can be an image or it can be a video. And what will happen is essentially I will click to watch a story and then it will run me through my stories. So it actually takes me away from the timeline and the ability to scroll and puts me on a story journey. Now, what happens within that is the stories that I like to watch most will appear to the start, but the stories from brands and businesses that I follow will also be in that list. So the longer I watch stories, the more likely I am to see all of that story content. And there's lots of things that we can do within stories to actually snag our audience and get them engaging with our business a little bit more. And also in such a highly disposable, fun way, we can almost take ourselves a little bit less seriously in stories than we can with our static Instagram posts. So the example from Airbnb is basically they have posted a story and you get the opportunity to guess where that location is. Is it Auckland or is it Sydney? So it's content that people will like to see, but it's just fun for the sake of fun and a little bit interactive. The example in the middle is from Hopper. We've got, well, these are fantastic travel theme posts, aren't they? Even if we can't really leave the house right now, at least we can have a little global explore on Insta. Example in the middle is from Hopper, and this is San Francisco, California. It is Golden Gate Bridge, and we basically get to rate on a little sliding scale if you can just see the heart eye emoji. So essentially, we are able to basically decide how much we love that particular picture, and you can slide that emoji to the end. You can slide it to the other way if you didn't particularly rate the picture. So we're actually able to create moments of interaction with our audiences that literally for them are as simple as a click, but actually keeps them in that ongoing dialogue with us as a brand or as a business. And then we've got an example here from Nike in Paris, decathlon world record holder Kevin Mayer wants your questions. Now you are able to offer Q&A via Instagram stories. So you're able to basically take questions either anonymously, which is a new feature for Instagram, or with people citing who they are within the questions. Only the host, so only the business account that's hosting the questions will see who sent them, even if they're not anonymous, and then you can answer them. So if you wanted to host a Q&A about your product or service, Instagram is a fantastically effective place to do just that. In terms of your stories, the rules. So each Instagram story lasts 10 seconds, up to 10 seconds, but you can stack them. So if you wanted to run 30 seconds of story, that would basically be 3 separate Instagram stories stacked together. You can utilize your filters and effects if appropriate. So filters and effects, you can post little stickers onto your Instagram stories. They're very fun to create, and you're able to take a slightly less corporate approach because the content is slightly more disposable, but only use those if it is appropriate. So on Instagram, you're able to use all sorts of filters and funny voices if you wanted to record a video of yourself. But if I was going to record a video basically talking about social media terms and conditions and the importance of adhering to an appropriate usage policy, and I had a little filter with some silly bunny ears, you might not necessarily take that business advice as seriously as you should. So make sure you are matching the level of fun in your post with the level of seriousness of the subject that you are discussing, particularly if you are B2B. If you are B2C and you sell something that is gorgeous and very lighthearted, the foodie businesses in the room that introduced themselves previously in the chat box, I am thinking about you guys. You can have a little bit more fun in this particular sector, but be aware that content is highly disposable. So just constantly be measuring how much time it actually takes you to create content for Instagram stories. We want to make sure that yes, you're putting enough content effort in that you will get good results and good engagement, but actually if this is content that takes you hours to produce, it is not the best possible use of your time for 24 hours of exposure. In terms of your Instagram post presence, if you have content that's going to take longer to produce, it might be worth just by default considering that as more of a long-term Instagram post as well. Your post will display permanently on your page, and users are able to go to your Instagram profile and essentially catch up and scroll back as far as they might want. So content on your page will get predominantly visibility when you post it. For a couple of days it will appear in algorithms, and then for basically the rest of its content lifetime it will live on your page where audiences can revisit it wherever they like. In terms of making sure that your posts stand out, we're going to be looking at how to create strong visual imagery, whether that is for stories or whether that is for posts, to making sure that your Instagram photography in the first instance is working for you. And because Instagram is such a heavily led mobile app, we'll be referring to this tenuously as phonography for the rest of the session. So your phonography, the art of phonography, how exactly do we create good quality images for Instagram using basically a humble mobile phone? There's a couple of essential tips that we'll be running through. Always snap in the highest possible quality. So if you're taking photographs on your mobile phone, make sure your default settings are to the highest possible quality. It's just worth a little check. If you have team members that are collaborating and they're sending you files or images, perhaps, for example, someone was at an event and they sent across an image to be posted on your Instagram, are you ensuring that that's coming across in good quality? And if not, can you get a slightly higher resolution? So always, always, always go for the highest possible quality of visual, the highest possible file size. Switch your camera to square mode if possible. So you may have noticed that within your Instagram, your photos on your page will display in preview squares. Now, you can post vertical images and you can post horizontal images, but essentially when Instagram collates them and puts them out on your page, it will take that center square. So if we shoot in square photography, it's a little bit of a life hack for keeping everything simple, but it means that you know your image as you take it is going to look absolutely insta-perfect right off the bat. Lighting is key, so make sure that your lighting is good. In terms of, do you have access to product photography that would allow you to use a light box? If you are photographing something that's more B2B, so it might be something as simple as creating a short video of yourself talking, can you make sure that you do it in a well-lit area? Lighting is the biggest kind of essential tip in terms of your tangible factors around you that can affect how good your image might look. And filters definitely help, but please bear in mind that they need to be used appropriately. So if you have an Instagram strategy that encompasses a little bit of storytelling, so telling the story behind your brand, and discovery, filters will work well in that element. But if you have an Instagram that's very much product led, actually applying a filter to a product photo might change the color or the perception of how that image looks. And what you want to do is really try and shy away from that, because we want our customers to potentially see that product in all of its glory, not an edited version. It may lead to a little bit of customer dissatisfaction if they were to order off the back of an Instagram photo and the product doesn't look as they thought it would. But if, for example, you took a selfie and you felt like you looked a little bit washed out, which is always the story of my life, popping on a little bit of a filter to really take the edge off can help. So use your filters, but use them well with discretion, and make sure that they are used in a way that adds a bit of intrigue or spruces up an image, but doesn't actually lead audiences down the wrong path when it comes to a product. So let's have a little look at exactly what that means. And for the first example here, we're going to be looking at Valley Buds flowers. Now, this is one of the most popular Instagram accounts of 2019, and these images actually featured in a little roundup. So these are breaking the square rules, but these actually give me the opportunity to talk about framing. Now, framing is something that I haven't really spoken about since GCSE art, which was many, many moons ago for me. But basically, when it comes to imagery, there is the law of threes. So if you imagine your imagery is basically built up of a grid, so you essentially have 3 columns and 3 kind of horizontal kind of paths across. Essentially what that means is, if you're able to frame your content so that it goes to the side or to the center, you're able to create a little bit more intrigue within your imagery. So either beautiful center form content works particularly well, or if you are looking to create a little bit more intrigue with your imagery, actually playing with putting the subject into either the right or left hand third of the image will create a little bit more of an intrigue point for audiences. You can see that this imagery is outdoors. Now, outdoors, if you can manage it, will give you the best possible natural light, but I appreciate in Great Britain that is not always the most easy to do. In terms of developing this a little bit further, we've got another Valley Buds flowers example here, but we also have an example from another social media account. This is basically the value of adding a slightly human element to your imagery. So when it comes to Instagram, if you are keen to set your imagery apart and really grab audience attention, and whether that is via a story or whether that is via a post, adding a human element, when we are all biologically pre-programmed to look for human elements, will massively help. So you may not be ready to commit to a face in your Instagram photography. Putting out a selfie or using your own images can be a little bit next level. But within that, can we add a little bit of an intrigue either around feet or hands? Anything that indicates a human has been there recently will massively add a new level, a new dimension to your imagery, and really help audiences resonate with it on another level. And to go a little bit further, can we show items in situ in order to better demonstrate them? So we've got 2 examples here, and basically we've got a little bit of a fashion example on both counts. So a dress rather than a dress hung up on a hanger, which would be a potential wedding dress or a white dress. We now actually have, going beyond that is a dress, to actually on the left hand image we have got, this is a woman getting ready, and perhaps she is getting ready for her wedding day. So actually take the product beyond a product picture and actually pop that into a narrative, so our audiences are able to make sense of that picture a little bit quicker by utilizing that human element. And then the example we have got to the right is, can we play with elements and textures, and in an ideal world, can we include imagery that includes human eyes. We are all biologically pre-programmed to look for human elements, but particularly eyes, and basically having the power of your audience, basically being able to view eyes on your Instagram will create an immediate human connection on a level that isn't something that we are typically consciously aware of. You will feel more of a human connection seeing someone's face than you will without seeing their face, but usually not on a level that we feel is conscious. And what that means is when it comes back to those purchase cycles, it keeps your audiences a little bit more connected to your business than they otherwise would be. Make sure they're not getting poached by other businesses and their human faces on social media. Couple of life hacks for you here. If in doubt, food photography always does very, very well on social media, and taking a little bit of time to frame your imagery can do wonders. We've got the example on the left from Great White in terms of, yes, it is a plate of food, but the stylistic design that's gone into that, again, coming back to, can we tell a little bit of a story and make it something that's just that bit more aspirational? That is not someone's breakfast that they've prepped at home. We know that that is a restaurant, or at least restaurant quality in terms of what that customer is going to be enjoying. The example from Tokyo, the beautiful cityscape. Now, this is particularly useful if you are a B2B business and actually we don't have a whole load of easily usable, tangible, nice things to photograph. Are we actually able to give people insight to our worlds by showcasing the environment around us? Particularly a little bit important while we all operate in a hyper-local kind of setting right now. Can we include some nice local imagery that actually creates a local connection with other Instagram users? And the example on the right is that, but turbocharged, because animals, and cute animals in particular, always do very, very well on Instagram. I am a sucker for a dog post on Instagram. So any pets or animals will work on not quite a human level, but certainly on a building connection with another being level, and add a level of warmth to your social media presence. And just to round up before we have a quick break, I'll take a few more questions ahead of that, and then we'll have a little sort of break while everyone can disband, grab another cup of coffee and jump back in. These are some examples of the more popular Instagram posts that we have run as a B2B organization. So for anyone that doesn't know us, we are a social media marketing provider, and we work with businesses to represent them on social media and run their channels. So basically, in terms of us, we are a team. We work in an office. We don't have any beautiful products, and we are a little bit up against it for that. So to get around that in terms of B2B, these are some of our most popular social media posts. The one on the left is, to my eternal disappointment, our most popular Instagram post of all time, and that is our office Christmas tree. Now, it basically works on a couple of levels. We put the post out to narrate our presence. So basically, we put it out to identify with customers that we were also experiencing Christmas. So just to demonstrate that we're on the same trajectory. And we popped that out onto social media. We got a huge level of engagement, but we actually sold directly on the back of it, because it was such a human level post in terms of, we're going through this with you guys, we're narrating our business journey, that actually it completely disarmed some of our contacts that we'd known for a while, who want to come back and book in with us for another consultation and then begin some more work. So unbelievably, that was totally unexpected, but enough to push customers down the purchase cycle. Now, alongside that, we've shared loads of great advice and hints and tips, but unfortunately, that's the one that resonated most with customers. The example that we have got in the middle was actually winning a kind of industry award, and it was myself that went to collect it, and it was a lovely evening, but I wasn't quite selfie ready when we took this picture. I knew I wanted to post it straight on our social media accounts, but I very much did not want to have that immediate exposure right there. So instead, around the idea of the human element, could we just have a hand holding that image, which worked very well for us. And then the third example, this was headshot day at Ococo Media. So rather than just post our headshots while when we had them, we actually posted a behind the scenes photo of the headshots being taken. So it was a photo of a photo being taken, to try and play with that idea of Instagram as a slight opportunity to show you a behind the scenes and human element of our business, which is B2B and a little bit dry, but actually showcasing we do have a bit going on and we are fun and we are human, but tell that narrative particularly well. So with those in mind, if you are B2B in the room and you're struggling a little bit, I do hope that that insight has helped give a little bit of a demonstration as to what's worked for us, and giving you some ideas of the type of content that you might also want to produce for yourself. So we will jump onto some additional resources, but I think now will be a great time for a little caffeine fix. But if we want to kind of prefix that by just doing a mop-up of any additional questions, that would be fantastic. If Andres would like to join me again, that would be fab.
Hi, Natalie. Yeah, sure, absolutely. I really liked the information about the human touch in the photos, and I really see the point that you were making, especially with the wedding dresses. I don't know, that kind of hooked me up. Right, if you don't mind, we can jump on to a few questions before the break. We've got a real interesting one from Ivone. She says, I know this has been mentioned, but what is the best option, easiest way to upload to Insta from a desktop? I'm currently using Hootsuite, but is it easier to use it via Facebook or other? I've used the Hack Opening Desktop as a mobile app, so know how to use that too, but find them all a bit off, to be honest. I can't always use the mobile app at the moment, as currently working from home and don't always have the signal.
I think that's probably going to be a really common issue for people. If you live somewhere slightly rural, your signal is a bit patchy. Yeah, there's a couple of options available to you, Yvonne, and there's certainly ones that we use in the office. So I am an adamant Hootsuite user. Hootsuite is my favorite. I use Hootsuite to schedule on Instagram, but you can post organically as well. So basically you would post, it would go straight out. So that is my go-to if I need to post anything onto Instagram. There are a couple of limitations with using Hootsuite, which is on Instagram you can add multiple images to one post. You can't do that on Hootsuite, I'm afraid. But for me, the trade-off of actually being able to schedule my Instagram post so I can actually sit down once a week and write 3 to keep us going for the week is kind of worth the trade-off. And then if I do need to top that up with a multiple image post, I will kind of be tempted to do that on my phone on the fly. So if you are already using Hootsuite and you're comfortable with it, I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. If you go to Facebook, if you link your Facebook page, you can post directly through Creator Studio. So it might be worth giving that a little explore and a try and seeing if you take to that more. For me personally, having tried that, I do still prefer the Hootsuite option of the two, but it is entirely up to you. I would say definitely give it a go through Creator Studio, see how you find that. But for me, Hootsuite, certainly there's other options such as Sprout Social and any other scheduling system. Buffer also offers it, but my preferred option is Hootsuite. So you might be on the best of a bad bunch at the moment, but definitely have a little explore. For things like Sprout Social and Buffer, you are able to set up free trials on them. So if you thought, oh, Hootsuite, I know you said it was your preferred one, Natalie, but it really doesn't do it for me, don't be afraid to try a few other software systems, but they are unfortunately all a bit much of a muchness because Instagram is still quite true to that app, I'm afraid.
Right, okay, excellent, thank you. Another one from Noriko. Does Instagram resize images automatically when we post a large sized photos?
Yes, it will. So if you are on the app, automatically it will resize your image to a square. You are able to then use the little kind of tool in the bottom left hand corner, which will basically just aspect ratio that out. So if, for example, you uploaded an image which was much wider than it was taller, so traditional rectangular image, basically you uploaded that on Instagram, it would zoom in on that center square, but you're able to use that little ratio tool just to zoom back out. So it does automatically resize for you. So if you have an image that you've taken which is horizontal, but actually the subject matter's in the middle and you don't mind about losing the sides, you can do that directly via Insta. And if you are taking image but you do want the sides in, you're able to resize that when you get to Insta. That's perfect.
Right, okay, excellent. Another one from Tony. I'm interested in the Instagram shopping and how to. Will this be covered at a later stage? Thanks.
Yeah, so Instagram shopping is basically, oh, actually, Tony, do you mean Instagram shopping or Instagram shops? They are both kind of combined at the moment into this set feature, but we are seeing basically the rollout of Instagram shops. So Instagram shops are the ability for a user to complete a transaction within Instagram itself. So essentially, you don't lose anyone on the click through. Instagram shopping is already a feature where basically you're able to have your products listed, but people will then click through to your website on that final purchase stage, so the transaction is completed on your website itself. If you have Instagram shopping, you are on the fast track list to get Instagram shops. To get that, you will basically receive an email as that's rolled out and you can sign up for it. If you don't already have Instagram shopping set up because you're waiting for Instagram shops, a little bit of a life hack is to set up your shopping, and you'll be super fast track to get that shops facility when it kind of launches. But yes, we will be covering it at the end, so stick with me, have a coffee, stick with me, we'll get to it. Thank you.
Right, excellent, thank you. Another one from Caroline. Any suggestions as to how we can create a social media strategy, particularly for Instagram, that has an identity and is one brand? Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be a straightforward one, but yeah, we're going to get to some strategy notes in the second half of the session. But absolutely, it's all about basically thinking about what your audiences want to see, what narrates your business story, and getting those sales posts within that. So looking at how we kind of build that into a tangible plan, and basically make sure that we are consistent with everything. So the biggest part of your strategy should be consistent level posting, and posting about a range of things. So within that, if you wanted to basically showcase your products and services, it's how we create content that is relevant to your audiences around what we actually offer to build the right presence. But we'll cover that in more detail. Don't you worry, Carol.
Right, okay. And another one from Mark. Ooh, we've got quite a few questions. we might as well keep the whole break for now.
Yeah.
Right. We've got another one from Mark. Would you choose an image format, i.e. square or landscape, and stick with it? Or does a mix and match formats matter?
Well, Mark, I'm quite selfish, so I go with whatever image I think represents best, and I will have a little bit of flexibility within there. But if you wanted every bit of content to match and look really on point and on brand and have a very set aesthetic, I would say go with square for everything. So if you're okay with a bit of flexibility in your presence, you can utilize taller imagery, rectangular imagery, and go with that. But for if you wanted something that was a very, very set aesthetic and quite design led, just commit to the square layout, because we don't see that changing in Instagram pages themselves anytime soon.
Right, okay, thank you. Another one from Yvonne again. Many thanks, Natalie. Can you use multi-image upload on Facebook Creator Studio, or is that again only one like Hootsuite?
I believe you can do multi-images, Yvonne. It will depend exactly on what exact edition of Creator Studio your account is currently running on. So it's a tentative yes for me, and if not, you should be able to relatively soon on that. That will get around the issue that you would experience on Hootsuite, yes.
Right, okay. We've got another question from Emma, following from Nautico's question. Does it also resize from a resolution perspective, so from high res to low, in terms of uploading to Instagram?
No, your resolution shouldn't be affected when you upload to Instagram, whether you are uploading directly to Instagram itself, or whether you are uploading via Hootsuite or via Facebook Creator Studio. If you do have an image that's quite small and you zoom in, obviously that will affect the quality of the image, but Instagram or any scheduling tools themselves won't affect the kind of quality of your image itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. One more from Peter. How can I share our Instagram account on my iPhone? My wife has an account for Beamish Glamping, but I need to post as well. So I think he wants to have access to one account from 2 phones? Is
that is totally possible. To do that, I'm just literally going to stop this share, and I'm going to see if I can demonstrate live on screen for you now, Peter. We'll just see. You might have to use your imagination a little bit. So here is my Instagram, and I'm logged in as me. Now, in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see there is a little picture of me there. That is my profile settings. If you give that a click, that is going to take you to a page that looks a little bit like this. So currently on your Instagram, this will be your detail. And what we want to do is we want to add on the Beamish account to make that work. So in the top right-hand corner, you're going to go to the little burger icon. So give that a click. And then you're going to go into settings, which is the top one that appears. And then from there, you're able to scroll down to accounts, which is just here. And then from there, you are able to add additional accounts on there. So you are able to have an Instagram account that is accessible on more than one device. And then you can switch between them. So you can go on Instagram and use it yourself for recreation and then switch across to the business. But yep, you can add up to 5 different logins per Instagram device. So I hope that was helpful.
And, I wish Peter all the best. And let's say his business is, his business grows exponentially, and what does he need to do if he wants to add more than 5 people to one account? Is that possible, or is that like a paid version of Instagram, or what's the best option to go around that?
There is unfortunately no hack around for that we can find on Instagram itself on a phone. So if you are using something like Facebook Creator, you can have as many Instas as you want. If you're using Hootsuite, you can have as many as you want on there. But for Instagram itself, unfortunately, the only option really would be to have either multiple devices. So perhaps you have an iPad, or you invest in an iPad because you've got 10 businesses, and then you can put the additional accounts onto another device. But unfortunately, there's no workaround on Insta itself. And for the time being, no way for us to give Instagram money, because I'd be okay with that. If it was an additional service, I'd be okay with paying them a bit of money. But unfortunately, you're capped at 5, and your only way to add more on after that is to start taking them off. So if you've got more than 5, my advice would be look at Hootsuite or Facebook Creator Studio for your management system. But unfortunately, just hang on to it. But yeah, I mean, if it's available and you need it and it's available for a nominal charge, I think most people would pay, but it's just a bit of a pain that they don't offer it, unfortunately.
Right. Okay. Peter says that he hasn't got ad account on his iPhone. What I'm going to say, Peter, we'll get back to this question at a later stage, probably at the end of the webinar. And I want to let people go on a break because we've been quite off our time. So what I'm going to say, we'll have a 5-minute break, guys. Go make yourself a cup of tea or etc. And we'll see you in 5, which will be, let's say 11:15.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay, guys, we'll see you soon. Don't go anywhere, and keep your webinar on. You don't need to log out, or don't turn off your computers or anything. And we'll get back to you soon. Okay, thanks everyone, and we'll see you soon.
See you in a bit, guys. Hi everyone and welcome back. I hope you guys had a good little break there, and thank you so much for rejoining. So I'm just literally going to jump straight back in to our presentation and let's get caught up. So we ended on looking at the type of imagery that you can produce, even if you are B2B, but especially if you are B2C. But if you need a little bit of added support, particularly around being a B2B business or not necessarily having imagery that represents everything that you would like to talk about or cover within your Instagram posts, these are our top picks for getting free to use stock imagery for your Instagram, whether you use this into stories or whether you use it in posts. These are some great websites for actually getting free to use stock imagery. So we have Pixabay, which is a really good, safe pair of hands. So whatever imagery you need, you can probably find it on Pixabay. Now, this will offer you imagery that is free to use, so you're not having to necessarily pay to license a particular image for a social media post that's going to be disposable, particularly around Instagram stories where it might only be visible for 24 hours anyway. We've got Unsplash, and we've also got Gratitography at the end. Now, those are quite quirky, off-the-wall style stock imagery websites that are, again, free to license, free to use. So if you wanted something that was a little bit unusual, perhaps you do business consultancy, but you do it with a twist, and you want some slightly more irrelevant take on marketing, these are going to be the great place to get that content from. You also have Pexels, which is another, again, really good, safe pair of hands, but a good library. So if, for example, you wanted to post a motivational quote and get a nice background image that complemented that content, this might be the place to get that background imagery without having to constantly delve into your own photography or invest in purchasing licensing for stock images. So these are our top picks for a sort of one size fits all as to where to get some really good imagery and assets from. When it comes to actually using this imagery for your Instagram, a great way to actually add value to the images that you post is through a free online tool called Canva. Now, if you've attended any of the sort of UME presentations before, it is something that myself and a lot of digital trainers talk about a lot because we love it. And the reason that we love it is absolutely fantastic. So Canva offers really helpful WYSIWYG, which means what you see is what you get on screen, image editing, which allows you to create images quickly and easily that encompass a range of design elements, but particularly work very well for individuals like myself who don't have any real good level of graphic design skills. So I kind of have a good eye for knowing whether I like something or whether something looks good or not, but actually when it comes to if I was to create it from scratch, I would be at a total loss. So Canva really helps fill that gap and make sure that we've got content that is visual but adding value for your business on Instagram. To take a little bit of a deep dive into that, Canva will give you pre-existing templates for creating designs. So within that, you can create Facebook posts, Twitter posts, social media posts, posters, but you can create Instagram graphics specifically for Instagram. And within those settings, it will give you templates that you are able to customize for your brand. So you can create them from scratch in perfect dimensions. So for Instagram, you can create a perfect square for Instagram, but you are able to create images either using an existing template to give you a little bit of a turbocharged step up when it comes to the graphic design, or to encourage you to put together your own elements, but in a very, very easy and accessible way. So within Canva, you're able to upload your own imagery or imagery you've taken from other stock image websites. Canva is free to use on its basic package, but you can upgrade your package. I think it's about $5 to $10 a month, depending upon what you need for the next setup. And within Canva, you can also buy additional one-off designs if you find that you need a certain element, and they will cost you the princely sum of $1 per asset. So even if you do end up having to invest a little bit with Canva, it is still phenomenally effective as a nice, cheap way to generate graphics for social media, particularly for Instagram, which is very, very visual led, and particularly for stories where you might not be keeping that content for any meaningful level of time. So within Canva, this is an example of a pre-existing template basically spruced up. If you were a business coach or you talked about productivity, this is a perfect example of the type of content that you might want to post on your Instagram. It is a motivational quote from Tony Robbins, but designed very, very nicely. So we take the quote, a text element, we add some design elements through Canva, we add a stock image that represents perhaps an entrepreneur life, and we put that all together very, very effectively on Canva. And you can see that this is literally just based on a quote social media graphic on the left-hand side of the template column. So Canva makes it super easy to create these. You can customize them in line with your exact brand colors. You can upload your brand logo. So this is particularly useful if you want to post any type of announcement, or if you are a B2B organization where actually we've got to work a little bit harder to create images that people actually want to see. To give you an example of that as a finished graphic, we have got our Tony Robbins quote on the left, but we're also able to create Canva graphics that are filtered around calls to action, a little bit like the lottery example that we looked at earlier. How actually do we create urgency within our customers' purchase cycles? Can we tell them it's a one-day flash sale? So creating graphics that work very, very nicely. Within Canva now, relatively new, we are also able to animate graphics. So create a graphic that is halfway between an animation, like a full-scale video, and a static image which just has a small design element in it. It could be a line appearing, it could be a circle, it could be a word. This is very, very easy to create on Canva. My advice and my homework for you guys is have a little play around with Canva and use it to create one, at least, social media post for your business or brand within the next week. That will allow you to test the waters, really have a good play with it, upload some imagery, see what you can do, and also start to get those ideas whirring as to how Canva can help you form a good plan for creating relevant assets and really nice content to share on your social media accounts. So something that's a little bit special, and it's an amazing way to actually test the water with a little bit of moving image content, because surprise, surprise, like all social media platforms, Instagram is seeing a lean towards video, and video is vital for organizations that might want to engage their audiences or go beyond that image and tell even more of a story through essentially moving images or through a bit of additional wording for Instagram. So this is the Instagram Facebook slogan for Q2 this year. So it's very, very slightly 2 days out of date, but we are seeing them roll it for Q3. And what it essentially means is that Facebook and Instagram, as a product of Facebook, are recommending the optimum time for video on social media based on current audience attention spans is 15 seconds. Now, 15 seconds really is not very long at all. So what that suggests is actually what we're going to see working well from an audience appetite point of view is very short form video, highly disposable video, whether it is through stories, but short form video that actually tells snippets of brand stories or product updates, but actually leaves audiences wanting more. Now that's perfect for actually a teaser that then links to link in bio. Please click through and visit our website. But it's also great if we look at those very initial Instagram usage stats where actually people log on multiple times a day and spend a meaningful amount of time on Instagram as a social media platform. So Instagram recommends the following. The following is basically taken from Facebook and Instagram recommendations. So your audience will be holding their phone vertically 94% of the time. So if you are going to think about visibility on Instagram, we do have the option to upload those rectangular images, but they won't take up quite as much space in Instagram feeds as a vertical image, which will take up a considerably more kind of spacious outlook. or a square image, which will work very, very nicely and take a nice big chunk of visibility also. So for video, keep it short. 15 seconds is the goal. Now, if it's a 15-second video, we need our audiences to really get some good content right off the bat. Because if their attention span, as recommended by Instagram, is 15 seconds for a video, their scrolling speed, so the rate at which they are scrolling via Instagram, is on average 1.7 seconds. So that means in 1.7 seconds, you have got that opening gap as to whether your audiences watch your video or do not. So make sure you've got that really strong video content right at the start. Now, if this was 2012, when I first started out in running my own business, and we were talking about video, I would be talking about 3 minutes, and I'd be talking about get the branding in right at the start. So make sure that your audience can see a lovely orb of your logo appearing and then fading in, and perhaps it has a nice bit of music, because in 2012, that's how video was done on the web, and there was so much less competition for audiences' attention that actually any video, the fact that you were a business putting out video, meant that you'd already won. Now in 2020, competition is so much tougher, and really I can't stress it enough, the importance of getting something meaningful right in that first second of video content. So if it's going to be a person talking, can we land right on that person's face? If it's going to be something that features animals or a product, can we add a little bit of dynamism to the image so there's some movement right off the bat? You have essentially got that 1.7 seconds to hook your audience and to get them to stop that scroll and watch your video content. Likewise with stories, we've got to keep them entertained for 10 seconds. So in a story world, you need to make sure that your content is something that hits at every second of those 10 seconds. But in a post world, it's really about getting that 1.7 seconds right at the start, so as audiences are scrolling, we grab their attention. Now, some key ways to start that are hit it with a hook. So definitely make sure your audiences are immediately able to identify that this video is for them. So if you are targeting parents, does the video feature parents or someone saying, hey parents, if you're looking for? So can we immediately get that resonance with the audience right off the bat? Now silence is golden, because Instagram will play most of your videos automatically on mute. Audiences do have the opportunity to put the volume on for Instagram. However, a lot don't. So you might want to consider adding subtitles to your video if it is someone talking, or even if it has an over-the-top narration and basically needs a little bit more. You might want to keep it really simple and put subtitles on, but actually those subtitles are just a bit of text rather than relating to a voiceover, and there's music and subtitles that help your audiences get through to the end. And my advice with video is plan like a pro. So when it comes to video and prepping for video, time is absolutely your biggest advantage. If you give yourself more time to prep video or more time to bounce your ideas and think and plan, this is what's going to really, really set you apart from the competition, particularly around if you are seasonal. So if you, for example, dare I say it, Christmas is coming, but in marketing, we really can't plan far enough in advance for actually seasonal content. So start to think about the videos that you watch on Instagram, the types of content that you see from other brands, and how you might like to relate that to your brand. Now, to break that down a little bit further, I'm going to be covering some of the top tools that we use for Instagram. And the first is IGTV. So IGTV is essentially an extension of Instagram that allows you to create longer form video content that basically doesn't play by those best practice rules, and essentially allows you to keep your audiences entertained for longer. Now, technically, IGTV is a standalone app. So basically what your audiences are able to do is choose whether they want to go into Instagram, where everything is short and snippety, or whether they want to go to IGTV, which is a bit more of a YouTube facility where they're actually able to watch longer form video, and it's all set up around the idea of longer form content. Now, bear in mind, your audiences that are going onto Insta might have a little bit of appetite for longer form content, but not very much, and it is a fast-paced, dynamic network. But you are able to use IGTV, it will automatically prompt you if you want to upload a longer form video, that you can use IGTV to basically host that content and then put it out via Instagram. Now, a lot of businesses fall into the trap of spotting this for the first time and go, great, I can now get my 3-minute video with my lovely orb of a logo that fades in and all my music onto Instagram, and people are going to watch it. Same rules apply. So if you are thinking about uploading or utilizing your longer form content on Instagram via IGTV, that is good and a good plan, but you are not going to get that high level of engagement. So for your longer form content, you might want to stick that exclusively on IGTV. Your account will sync, so you'll still be logged in as yourself, but your IGTV long form content will go out and live on IGTV, and your shorter form content will live on Instagram. And then within that, make sure that you are essentially putting the right content in the right places based on what your audiences actually want. So IGTV does give you a little bit of leeway, but certainly even if you are using an IGTV setup to get a longer video on, make sure that video is interesting in the first opening seconds. Otherwise you do lose that audience interaction and potential engagement entirely. So IGTV is there, keep it up your sleeve. But if you can basically, again, coming back to play by the social media networks rules, and their recommendations are recommendations based on the fact that no one wants Instagram to work better for your business than you do, I do, and Instagram does. Because the more that you create good content on Instagram, the more that helps them as a platform, and the more likely you are to pay them a little bit of money in terms of paid advertising, which we will come to shortly. So essentially IGTV is there, and it's well worth being aware of and just bearing in mind for your strategy. Outside of that, for video, we would also recommend getting a little bit of good video editing software on your phone itself. The one that we recommend for this as a good one-size-fits-all is Quick. It is actually designed by the guys that set up GoPro, so they know a thing or two about creating a snazzy, engaging video. But Quick will help you with automatic formatting. It will help you again with templates. It is essentially a Canva for video, and will absolutely help you get the best out of your video content, even if it is something like it's going to be a talking video, it's going to be me talking about social media terms and conditions for 15 seconds, just giving one top tip. Actually, a little bit of quick editing would really jazz that up and add a bit more dynamism to audiences to give them something more engaging to actually get involved with. When we talked about subtitles, there's a range of subtitling facilities. This is the one that we use in the office and recommend. It is Capwing. So just capwing.com, the spelling is on there. It has an adorable little cat logo. And essentially it is designed to help you edit your videos and add subtitles. It's one of the easiest subtitling systems we have come across, and it is well worth a look if you are just getting started with subtitling and some of the software can seem a little bit daunting. It's very, very easy and very, very effective when used nicely. So Capwing is our subtitling recommendation. And it will move us nicely into, we have good content going out. So we have these visuals that are going out. We have these videos that are going out. But how on earth do we know whether we are doing Instagram well or poorly? Now, one of the metrics that we look at in Instagram is attracting your new followers, so how quick your account is growing. But this can be a little bit of a red herring. So just because you are necessarily putting out content does not mean that you're attracting the right level of followers. To give you a little anecdotal kind of reference to that, the slides that we've looked at previously, where we looked at test account getting set up with their name, now we set that up in the office to create those slides, but actually test account has quite a lot of followers, despite the fact that we never post any content on it. So it's a little bit of a, absolutely, if you build it, they will come, but we need to make sure that we're actually getting the right results from our Instagram. So are we getting the right followers, and are they actually relevant and potential customers? And what a trap that a lot of businesses fall into is actually not measuring anything. So we're using a little Peter Drucker quote here, which is what gets measured gets improved. And it's well worth bearing in mind for Instagram, but for all of your social media strategies, what you are measuring needs to be something that you focus on. So actually, by having an idea on numbers, we are halfway there for being able to improve things. So within Instagram, we talked about your business settings, and let's go back to test account. So what you will need to do, and I'll talk you through these step by step, is basically go to your account settings within your Instagram profile, and then go to your account. And then essentially what you want to do is check that you are as a business profile. So within your account settings, it will allow you to switch to a business profile on Instagram. Now, if you haven't done any scheduling on Insta previously, it's one of those things where at scheduling point, it will force you to lock in and become a business account, because mere mortals and individuals aren't allowed scheduling options. But for a business, you will need to unlock these business tools, and what that gives you is a better analytic dashboard. Not great, but significantly better than no analytics. And in terms of the types of things that we'd really be looking to measure in your Instagram presence, I'm going to run you through that on the next couple of slides. It's all about setting those targets. So your Instagram business presence will give you 3 key columns. So you've got your insights, and within those, your content, activity, and audience live. So essentially your content is a little recap of what you have posted and when. But it gets more interesting in the other 2 columns. So within your activity, you can actually see how many accounts you have reached during a set period. And this is particularly interesting. So this data that I've taken as an example on screen is actually from an account that hadn't posted anything until that Tuesday. So we were able to actually look at, okay, between not posting but getting the account set up and posting, we can see that we had that lovely surge of visibility when we posted. Now, if this account was posting every day, it would allow me to take more of an analytical day by day. What days do we get the best visibility on? But as it stands, it was a good metric for actually being able to check, okay, I'm posting for the first time ever. Is anyone going to actually see this? Now, your discovery is how many accounts you've reached, but your impressions is how many times that content has been seen. So for us in the office, reach is the more important metric. And I always remember is reach is real people. So reach is the number of actual individuals that have seen that post, and impressions is the number of times it has been seen. So within that, you'll have people who have seen that content more than once, and they are in your impressions. So your impressions will be a ratio. From there, you can also measure your interaction. So your interaction rate as to, okay, I posted this content. This is how many people it reached. This is how many times it was seen. And this is how many people interacted with it. So you're able to measure a direct response to how much visibility each post gets and how much interaction each post gets as well. And within your insights tool, you'll also be able to track and measure your audiences, which is invaluable. So your audience tab will basically let you see how many followers you've got and how quick that number is growing. It will allow you to break that down into how many people have unfollowed you and followed you, because you will find that as you post some content, you may find that audience members who have followed you for what they thought you were, but then the content that you post is not quite what they were expecting it to be, and may unfollow. So it will give you a handle on how many followers you've got overall in terms of acquisition or loss, but it will also show you exact numbers of how many new followers you've got and how many people have unfollowed you within that. It will allow you to see when your audiences are most active. So when your audiences are kind of really active online in terms of days and also in terms of key times. It will allow you to see your audience location. Now, if you are a local business, this is very, very important. You want all of your audience members to be based around your area, not in other parts of the UK unless you're e-commerce enabled. So if you can sell anywhere, it doesn't really matter. But if you don't ship to Europe, for example, you ship UK wide, you want to make sure that most of your followers are actually based in the UK where they can potentially buy from you. If you find that there's a distinct shift in the followers that you have versus the followers that you need, the easiest way to address that imbalance is to adjust the content that you are sharing, getting more of that local content, drive up that local audience. You can see your age range. Again, make sure that that fits with the profile of customers that you have. You can see your gender split. You can also see your days and times that your audiences are most active. Now, those days and times will help you determine when is going to be the best time of the day to put out content to drive maximum visibility for your particular post. And we can see in this example, if we would look at Tuesdays for this profile, they have biggest visibility between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. So if we were to post at midday, they're going to see not as much visibility, not as much reach, not as much real people reached than they would otherwise. So in terms of your analytics, it's well worth taking a good detailed look through, making sure you're set up correctly if you haven't looked at that already. If you are just starting with Instagram and you don't have any analytics, that is okay. We can have a little look at how to put together a social media strategy for Insta that really just takes part in looking at general trends to give you some time and a bit of slack to then figure out exactly what it is that your custom audience needs as you build it. And this is Instagram's own graphic of global engagement. So we can actually see a time scale as to where our audiences are most engaged in terms of actually liking, commenting, and reacting on posts. We can see that we see the highest level of engagement generally around that midday mark, but with slight peaks going into evenings on certain days. So if you have absolutely no data to get started with, this is a fantastic barometer to at least help guide when you might like to try putting some content out. So we see a fairly general split, but with higher visibility on weekdays, particularly Wednesdays and Fridays. We see generally better visibility and engagement around about midday, but there are a couple of those later sort of hot pockets around 7 to 8 p.m., particularly on a Tuesday and particularly on a Thursday. So it's a very helpful kind of tool. If you just search for Instagram global engagement, this is their published graphic, so it will pop up anywhere, or just take a quick sneaky photo of the slide now while watching the presentation so you've got it to refer back to. But if you are literally just getting started, this will help massively. But have a little think about who your audiences are as well, because typically if your audiences are mums, they might be busy with a bedtime routine between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. and it might be closer to 9 p.m. when they get to sit down with a cup of tea or perhaps something a little bit stronger and have a scroll through Instagram. So don't let this dictate fully, but it's a great starting point if you don't have that data to try. And often when it comes to Instagram or any social media platform, the way to get a handle on it is literally just to try putting out content and measure the reaction that you get. So in terms of times to post, that will be really helpful. In terms of actually making your content discoverable, you are able to use hashtags on Instagram to give your post a little bit of added reach. So you'll have followers that follow you based on your business that have discovered your business on Instagram. But for each individual post, dependent entirely upon the subject matter that is within that post, you are able to add hashtags into Instagram to basically insert that post into searches from any other user that's looking for that thing that you are posting about. Now, again, there's lots of different ways to get started with this. This is an example of allhashtag.com. So allhashtag.com is a free to use website that allows you to look at either random hashtags or top 30 hashtags to identify the best hashtags on any particular subject. So if you are a foodie business, you can go on and look at the best hashtags for that particular business. If you are a local business and if you are a local foodie business, you perhaps might want a combination of the two. So this will allow you to do some really good hashtag research. Now, my advice here is Instagram will allow you to upload up to 30 hashtags within your description. Any more than that and it switches all hashtags off. So keep it under 30, but keep those hashtags relevant as well. You want that to be potentially up to 30, but if you had 10 but they were very relevant to that image, it's going to help you get that better quality of followers that might potentially be customers. So there's swings and roundabouts, and it really depends on whether you want that huge visibility or whether you want to build that curated potential customer audience on Insta. And for me, all day long, I would encourage the latter rather than the former, because visibility is great, but it's largely vanity. I want to know that the businesses that we work with can move products and actually get a really effective Instagram presence in place. So we tend to favor the latter and making sure that audience is relevant. So business hashtags, it's a great tool to use, allhashtag.com, and you're able to look at anything on there in terms of discovering hashtags. Now, once you've got your Instagram set up with some good visual imagery that takes your audiences on kind of journeys, we've got that visibility through your hashtags, we're posting at the right time of day, we can start to think about doing a little bit of networking on Instagram itself. And I'm going to talk to you about the $80 rule, which is essentially a lovely place to end the training, as it's quite inspirational, but it is something that is set up by an absolute veteran of social media marketing, which is a guy called Gary Vee, who is a social media strategist based out in the States. And he basically built a wine empire by following the $80 rule on Twitter, back when Twitter was a thing. But he has since discussed the huge potential of actually getting this working on Instagram, because audience attention spans are there and everyone's looking to engage with content. So once you've got those hashtags that work for your content, actually spending time every day posting and looking at those hashtags that you're using to see what other content end users might be posting. So if you are a business strategist and you're posting something about productivity and motivation, and you find a hashtag relevant and you click on that hashtag and you basically see that a kind of business has posted a motivational quote as well, you're able to take that $80 rule. The idea behind it is you take your 2 cents and up to 90 times a day, you share them with someone else. So you're looking for Instagram posts to comment on from people that might look like potential customers or might be potential connections for you to make to grow your Insta network. And it's about taking that 2 cents and adding value. So if it was an inspirational quote, for example, you might post something saying, oh, I love this quote, it's one of my favorites, and just add value to their conversation. Don't worry about selling. If you're looking for local businesses to connect with and you're based in Durham, you might put hashtag Durham, have a look at other businesses using that hashtag, look them up. If they're a local winery, kind of, for example, you can basically click on them and say, oh, this looks great, I will have to pop in to purchase a bottle sometime. So there's plenty of things that you can use in terms of adding value to potential audiences. It's just about trying to spark those conversations. And if you can do this, the Gary Vee method is up to 90 times a day, which I think is a little bit steep, but hey, it's something to aim for. If you could do this 5 times a day for me, it's going to be adding huge value to your Insta network, because you're not just broadcasting at this point, you're actively engaging. So from there, if you wanted to, there are additional ways to turbocharge that reach. In terms of paying Instagram some money, you are able to access Instagram advertising tools. These work very, very nicely. And the nice thing about them is you can fully research them before you commit to any level of advertising spend. So you can look at your potential audiences. If you have your Instagram connected to a Facebook, you can set up your Instagram ads directly via Facebook, which gives you a little bit more insight. You're able to look at more things on that particular dashboard. But if you have your Instagram and you don't have a Facebook, nor do you want to connect it, you are now able to take advantage of new Instagram advertising dashboard features. Once you've got everything else in place, then you can consider advertising. But my advice would be, don't rush it. Get your strategy working and get that content right for you. And when it comes to advertising, only put that budget behind things that you can directly sell for the best possible return on investment. It will work based upon cookies. So basically linking everything that your Instagram users are talking about either on Instagram, or unless they've turned this off, Instagram is listening to every conversation that a user has near their phone. So a little bit terrifying for the soul, but fantastic opportunity for the marketer, because if you're discussing a certain issue within your business, your phone's actually listening into that, taking that data and putting it into the Instagram advertising matrix so that your account can be targeted with a key relevant message. So Instagram advertising, phenomenally effective, but very, very much the icing on the cake. Unfortunately, there's no way to supercharge it. You've got to do the legwork first. So don't forget about it. If you're just starting out, make sure you spend a couple of weeks getting used to the account, the platform, and then consider it. If you are comfortably working on Insta already, this is a good place just to pick up and start to explore those audiences. But my advice is you want to go through full Instagram Ads Manager, or if you're doing it via Facebook Ads Manager, which will allow you to set up Instagram ads within it to make sure that you are getting the absolute most bang from your buck in terms of your targeting opportunities. And very, very last, we have kind of already jumped ahead and covered it off due to a question, but Instagram shopping and Instagram shops are offering a next level of purchase system. So essentially we've got an example here. Now Facebook have released this, and the level of detail around this is sketchy at the moment. So this is unfortunately a Facebook example that goes into something that is an Insta example. So the first phone screen that you can see here is basically a Facebook business page, but it could just as easily be an Instagram business page. That then goes directly into a shops feature. So this is shops around the idea of not just a list of products like a shopping solution, but actually you're able to shop by a mood, by a feeling, by a collection, or simply by a product setup. So you could even in time look to put services onto Instagram shops as solutions that people can buy. The next tab after that will essentially allow you to look at everything within the day brightness setting. And then ultimately, while still being in that platform, so without leaving Instagram itself, add to cart and complete that purchase. So essentially we transact via Instagram. Now it is in very, very early stages of rollout at the moment. My advice is if you do want to have a look at this, get registered for its predecessor, which is shopping, and you should be looking out for an email coming through from shops. But certainly given that advertising opportunity and giving this new feature that is coming to Insta, it is a platform that we've seen phenomenal opportunity around so far and that continues to grow. So to recap and kind of make sure that we get everything covered off before we jump across for some Q&A, because I am aware we are running slightly behind time, but I've still got lots of time to talk to you guys this morning. To win on Instagram, you're looking for a couple of key features for your business. So number one is post regularly. Imagine your Instagram networking like a real life networking opportunity. You're only going to get results if you consistently show up. Instagram users log in every day and use stories and posts. So by having those visible for your brand, it is the most effective way to grow your presence on that network. Share great content. So make sure that you are balancing those sales posts with that content that keeps your customers entertained between their purchase cycle. So content that adds value between their purchases. If they get an item, they might want to know how best to use it or how to maintain it. Or they might want content that's a little bit fun or humanizes your brand or gives them a glimpse behind the scenes as to what it's really like to make them feel an affinity to you and your business. Engage with others, because if you're just posting, you're just broadcasting. It's again the equivalent of going into a networking business, networking opportunity and simply just shouting to the room rather than actually taking a moment to discuss anything with anyone. Yes, you want to get a little bit of shouting in, but you also want to be able to listen to other people's shouts, because they might be shouting out for your exact solution. But if we're not listening to them, you're not going to pick up on that. Talk about your industry, so make sure you're using the right keywords and hashtags for your business and showcasing your knowledge. Think about all those things that you know lots and lots and lots about, and how can you drip feed that information into just small bite-sized segments, either through imagery on Instagram, through stories, or through short form video. And once you've got the foundation safely in place, level up, invest a little bit in your presence to get ads that reach more people that are at the purchase stage of that sales funnel, and consider shops if you have a beautiful array of products, or even if you just want people to be able to complete their checkout process on Instagram itself natively. So thank you so much for bearing with me this morning. I know there's been a hell of a lot to get through in terms of Instagram for business, but I hope whatever stage of using Insta you were at this morning, you have got some value from that and some actionable things to take away. Don't forget to use Canva if you haven't already. And thank you so much for joining me. I'll throw back over to Andreas and we'll take some more questions from the room. Thanks, guys.